would you describe happiness? What is happiness?
Happiness or satisfaction is movement. Happiness or positive emotion or satisfaction is movement. Consistent movement. Happiness is not the destination. Happiness is not the goal. You might have those destinations and goals to get you in a place where you can experience more satisfaction along the way. And while in the moment of experiencing destination or the goal, you're having satisfaction, you can have satisfaction along the way to such place of understanding that you do not start even making distinction between variety of emotions. That's when you, as we recently started saying, start living beyond the emotions. Not without emotions, not without having them to be part of your experience. As you're in that place of living beyond the emotions, most of the time you get to recognize that most natural set of emotions or points of emotions that you call happiness and satisfaction and love and appreciation. But you can get there to feel so consistently only when you see the value of all of them. In other words, because as you go and try sometimes to eradicate those negative emotions, you're in a place of inclusion, and that wholeness that you feel with everything that exists cannot be fulfilled in a way where you can even feel those positive emotions in that way. In other words, it feels more like a hit or miss. But once you come to the place of steady, once you just are in the experience of that which is often referred to as relaxed meditative state more times, regardless of what tool you use to get there, then you start seeing that each of the emotions has the benefit. And then from that point on, really every emotion feels like happiness.
Hi, it's me again. Just kind of something that came into my consciousness that I wanted to bounce off of you was that conversation that you had with Armand about happiness. My perception of happiness was alignment, but my definition of alignment is seeing life through the eyes of my higher self. So like, you know, in this moment of time, my physical perspective and the perspective of my higher self, there is like resonance between that perspective. And so, you know, when you said happiness is movement, I guess what I'm really asking you is that, you know, I've always defined, I guess, happiness as seeing life through the eyes of my higher self. Can you explain what's your perspective of this and how does movement tie in with that?
You can put it in the box of positive emotion only. So there are negative emotions, there are positive emotions. Happiness falls into positive emotions. It's on my way to steady. It's on my way to get the answer. It's on my way to do that. But everything that you have from the place of steady, every time you're the one opening the door, isn't that a happy experience too? You're so steady that you know that whatever comes your way, you have tools to go back to steady, to experience more and more and more steady. Then you're opening the door. Then your trouble is happy. Then you're making preferences happy. Then your tipping point from question to answer is equally satisfying than tipping point when you're releasing that question into the answer. In other words, once you do not start making difference between the emotions but see them as tools for your clear, steady, blended experience, once you do not assign so much identity into them for too long. We're not saying do not experience emotions. We're saying do not make career out of it.
Is that not because, you know, like you talk about that steadiness when you're making, you know, you're opening the door from steadiness. Is that not seeing life through the eyes of your higher self?
It does, for as long as you can see that the discomfort is happy, for as long as you can see that some trouble is happy, for as long as you can see that being angry also has happy in it too, because it moves you to more and more and more satisfaction. Once you do not see the difference between those, but you see them as clear tools for your beautifully blended question-answer dance, then you're really not looking to assign more that which you call higher self and lower self, or physical self and higher self. Then you really are seeing things the way they are, which is always interwoven, blended experience of everything that exists with your current physical identity.
So in other words, I could be experiencing anger, I could be experiencing a frustration or happiness or bliss. And if I'm at this state, I'm not judging the emotion.
You will find really celebrating part. Sometimes not at the same moment, but you will not, again, make the career about just loving expression, holding on to it until eventually you give attention to something else, or you're not going to make career out of anger just because you feel like that's where you're supposed to stay. In other words, more you start blurring the lines between all of your experiences when it comes to your focus on focus dance, question answer dance, then all of the emotions become so beneficial that it's easier for you to navigate through those infinite identities that you are really seeking to experience.
Okay, I love that. Yes, the infinite. So seeing the benefit and the value of the infinite identities that I am experiencing.
Yes,
thank you.
Because as you go and trying to hold on, no matter how good or bad it feels, sometimes you hold on to it. Having so much focus on something that's resistance, you're holding on to the resistance. And then you release that resistance and then you try to start holding on to that place of love and satisfaction. Well, that's also resistance. In other words, once you release all of that, once you release and start really allowing yourself to blur the lines, then you can really experience so many different vantage points. And that's when truly, fully, your full-fledged life experience starts blossoming, because you are moving from one lane to another lane of your identities based on what you give your attention to. And you're not shifting it quickly because you want to run away from something negative, or you're not trying to hold on to it only one because you're feeling good, because you know that the switching is really the most natural place, that the dance, oscillation, movement, that which you call vibration, frequency is really in the nature of everything.
Yeah, so it's the movement between the emotions or the emotionless even that is happiness.
The movement and ease with which you are the one directing the movement might be the clearest definition of happiness.
Thank you. Beautiful.